We've done 2 US-Mexico twin cities, but now it's time for a pair of 100% Minnesotan twin cities. Here are the stadiums and arenas of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Where better to start than at Target Field, one of Major League Baseball's finest venues. There's a lot to love about it. The limestone exterior makes for a distinctive look, but once inside it's another building material that stands out. Despite being a fairly new stadium, a significant portion of the seats are actually partially made of wood. You can probably see which ones those are. The best feature in my opinion though would have to be the stunning city skyline backdrop that most spectators are treated to. To be clear, that's the Minneapolis skyline. In the late 90s though, there was actually a referendum to build the Twins' new ballpark in St. Paul, but the locals rejected it. Not because they don't like the Twins, it was just too costly. For some reason, people don't like tax increases. Xcel Energy Center. This arena is located down the Mississippi River in St. Paul. Come to think of it, the Twin Cities is kind of a good setup for professional sports teams, because they can just name themselves the Minnesota Twins or Minnesota Wild in this instance, and then both the cities can claim them. And they do need to stick together because their previous NHL team moved to Dallas. This arena was built to attract a new team, and it clearly did. The layout in here is not too far away from the typical NHL or NBA design, but rather than a proper upper tier, there are 3 very small upper tiers, only one of which is continuous. That being the suite level that has those extra comfy seats with a drinks table.
Those fine chairs look to me like the Irwin seating model number 911266-4.
US Bank Stadium. This spectacular building gets the nickname of the Ship, because the exterior design was inspired by Viking longboats. There's even a bit of a longboat sculpture at the western end of the stadium. All of this is of course due to it being the home of the Minnesota Vikings. You can see that the interior is where the architects sort of deviated from the traditional Viking longboat design. But I'm certainly not complaining because it probably looks even better than it does outside. There are at least 2 features that I like to see, that being the ample natural light that flows into the seating bowl due to the transparent exterior, and of course the purple seats. I guess one downside is that the roof is not retractable, but I mean it's Minnesota in the winter, so they'd probably keep the roof shut anyway. About halfway between the 2 cities is Allianz Field. The stadiums that Allianz lends its name to are usually top-notch, and this is certainly no exception. It's got to be one of my favourite MLS venues. I love that sleek, lopsided exterior made of You can do this. Polytetrafluoroethylene. That'll do. You can see why people just call it PTFE. Even more so though, I'm a fan of an internal feature, this terrace known as the Wonderwall, which is in reference to the song Wonderwall, which the club supporters are known to sing. I can only assume they didn't choose a song from a local artist because 10,000 people imitating the delicate vocals of Prince doesn't really intimidate the visiting team all that much. Well, I don't know, it's untested, who knows? Could do. Target Center. Target is based in Minneapolis in case you were wondering. They've held the naming rights to both Target Field and Target Center since they opened. Targeted advertising they call it. It's somewhat ironic that there's a cute little puppy on the side of the building because the arena is home to the Timberwolves. And Timberwolves would probably tear that cute little puppy apart. I am of course talking specifically about Karl Anthony Towns. Just like its NHL counterpart, the interior is nothing out of the ordinary. Perhaps the most distinctive aspect to this building is back outside, in particular the green roof, which is covered in 2.5 acres of greenery, consisting of dozens of different plant species. It's one of the biggest green roofs in the country. It wouldn't be an American city if it didn't have at least one college football stadium. Huntington Bank Stadium opened in 2009, which means it's fairly new by college football standards, yet the design is very much inspired by the past. Most notably the wraparound brick and stone exterior. That is in keeping with just about every other sports venue on the campus. Polytetrafluoroethylene would have looked out of place. This is another venue where spectators are treated to a skyline backdrop. They even installed the video board slightly to the right so it didn't obstruct said view. Oh, and the stadium was designed with potential future expansion in mind. You can sort of see where the upper tiers would go. Over the road we have Williams Arena, which opened in 1928. That makes it a very old arena, even by college basketball standards. It's comfortably the oldest venue you will see in this video. You may have noticed that the building is especially elongated. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Another anomaly is the court itself, which is raised a couple of feet off the arena floor. It's one of just a few college arenas with that quirk. For good reason, I suppose. The highlight of this place for me though would be the high arching roof, oddly enough. I think it looks great. You could probably fool someone into believing that this used to be the Minneapolis Central train station or something. Maturi Pavilion. This is actually attached to Williams Arena. They are the conjoined twins of the Twin Cities. This wasn't always the case though. The building was only divided into two separate arenas during a renovation in 1950. As you might expect, it is basically just a miniature version of Williams Arena, with the addition of this unusual section here. I don't know what that is, I do kinda like it though. Makes for a nice place to mount the video boards as well. This place is mainly used for volleyball and has done so ever since it was remodeled into its current form in the early 90s. For a long time, the school's hockey team played at Williams Arena, but since the early 90s they've had their own purpose-built home, 3M Arena at Mariucci. I should note that Huntington Bank Stadium does occasionally host hockey as well. I should also mention that this is exclusively the home of the men's hockey team. The women play elsewhere, Saudi Arabia style. Anyway, compared to Williams Arena, the interior is pretty straightforward. The seating is comprised of a symmetrical bowl, with a small upper tier in some places. It's looking clean though. Ritter Arena doesn't quite meet the capacity cutoff, but since I included the home of the men's hockey team, I thought I should at least mention the home of the women's team as well. It seems like a decent little venue. CHS Field. This is one of the few metropolitan areas that has both an MLB team and a AAA minor league team. The St. Paul Saints is unsurprisingly a Minnesota Twins affiliate. CHS Field is actually the closest of all minor league ballparks to its major league counterpart. Just 13 miles or about 20 kilometers away. One of the Twins' other affiliates is all the way over in the Dominican Republic. Just like at Target Field, there is a rather nice skyline backdrop, although it is of course St. Paul, and it's really only those sitting in the outfield lawn seating that are treated to it. If you're sitting behind home plate, you get to look at a freeway overpass. But no, considering that, it's still not bad at all. Since I talked about a shopping center in the Barcelona video, I have to mention that the Twin Cities is home to the Mall of America, which is the largest shopping mall in the US if you go by number of stores rather than square feet. 520 stores, which was a bit of a surprise to me because the biggest shopping center in the city where I was born has 550 stores. Melbourne 1, Minneapolis, St. Paul 0. Although the Mall of America is overall bigger, so let's call it even. So there you have it. I think the Twin Cities certainly punch above their weight. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, and as always, thanks for watching, have a good one.